Gentleman's time is concluded. Gentleman from Idaho, Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I come from Ohio, and Ohio is known frequently as the heartland. And in the heartland, there are a few things that are easy that are not so easy in Washington, D.C. Even in Hollywood, some of these things are easy. And those are the issues of who's on our team and who's on their team. And today I'm a little saddened by this hearing because I am absolutely a supporter of congressional oversight and believe that this committee has incredible functions that we have to do. Our witness today even talked about being a contractor, the questions that we should be asking of reliability, accountability, cost. A lot of the information we have before us is about dollars, rules of engagement, and the like. But what unfortunately dissolves into our team versus their team, by any account, by Hollywood's account, by the performance account, Blackwater is our team. They are our team working in the trenches and in a war zone. I haven't heard many questions in this committee about the rules of engagement or the limits on the work of Al-Qaeda or the insurgents. In fact, I don't recall one hearing in this committee where there has been indignation or troubling responses as a result of the senseless and heartless killings of Al-Qaeda and the insurgents. But I hear today huge concerns over what we must exert as oversight on Blackwater. And I think it crosses the line between our team and their team. Blackwater has questions to answer. And I believe that they are prepared to do that and today have come forward to do those things. But we should not go to the extent of undermining Blackwater's ability to perform as our team. The Washington Post today, in its editorial, in reviewing how this issue has come to light, stated, "Congressional Democrats despise the firm because it symbolizes the private contracting of military missions that many oppose in principle." This is the Washington Post saying that the Congressional Democrats are despising this firm because of its engagement in military missions that they oppose. The Washington Post goes on to say, at the same time, it is foolish. That's a pretty strong word for the Washington Post. At the same time, it is foolish to propose the elimination of private security firms in Iraq and Afghanistan, at least in the short term. I would hope as we continue our important functions of oversight that we don't undermine our team. Now, Mr. Chairman, you made a comment that I've got to respond to in your opening statement. It's written in your opening statement, and it says, as a general rule, children from wealthy and politically connected families no longer serve in the military. Mr. Chairman, that's an attack on our team. I can tell you that Duncan Hunter's former chairman of the Armed Services Committee, currently ranking member, whose son served in Iraq, would disagree with you. Joe Wilson, member of the Armed Services Committee, whose son served, would disagree with you. And I can tell you that the DOD in its report on social representation in the U.S. military services and the GAO in their September 22, 2005 report would disagree with you. Quoting from the DOD report, it says, our population representation report shows both a diversity and quality of the total force, men and women of various racial and ethnic groups, of divergent backgrounds from every state in our country, serve as active and selective reserve enlisted members and officers of the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, and Coast Guard. On particular note, the mean cognitive ability and educational levels of these soldiers, sailors, Marines, Airmen, and Coast Guardsmen are above the average of comparatively aged U.S. citizens. The GAO in their report similarly confirms that between 1974 and 2000, the force became older and better educated. So I would hope that the comments by the chairman are not interpreted as what I heard them as diminishing the abilities or the backgrounds of those who serve in our military. Mr. Prince, my question for you, you are free of some of the limiting acquisition rules that our military is subject to. A general has a different ability to be able to acquire something as you do corporately. Could you give us some insight as to how our acquisition rules inhibit our military in performing some of the things that you do and ways in which we can change those acquisition rules to deliver to them the things that they need?
Thanks for that question. I would say we find that the requirements process for the military constantly looks for the 120% solution, and it overspecs the electronic capability. I mean, there's an enormous amount of extra stuff and capability put on a vehicle that might not be necessary to just fulfill that job. I mean, if you could almost buy vehicles just planned on for Iraq right now, almost off the shelf, without having to plan about net-centric warfare and all the other bells and whistles that sometimes the DoD wants to put on things. So we buy to solve the situation at hand.
Gentleman's time has expired, and I want to apologize to the gentleman for indicating that he's from a different state than Ohio. He's a proud Ohioan, and I certainly wouldn't agree. I want to agree with him. I hope nobody misinterprets my comments. Next, now call on Ms. Watson.
Then I want to apology for the reference to Hollywood. That's the area that I represent here. I heard the chair apologize. I just